The night was cold and the ruins of the alien city were silent except for the faint crackle of broken machines. Smoke still rose from the shattered towers and strange shadows moved where fires had burned all day. The war had ended here only hours ago, but the place still smelled of blood, dust, and fear. A lone human walked carefully through the wreckage. His name was Daniel, a soldier who had been left behind after his unit pulled back. He was searching for survivors, though he knew the chances were small. Every step he took echoed in the empty streets. His boots crushed glass and twisted metal. The silence made him uneasy. Daniel lifted his flashlight and scanned the broken walls. Something flickered in the corner of his eye. A faint light, soft and pale like the glow of a dying star. He froze. At first he thought it was just fire from the rubble, but when he stepped closer he heard something. Very faint, like the shallow breath of someone still alive. His heart jumped. He rushed forward, moving aside a slab of fallen stone with all his strength. Beneath the wreckage, he found her. It was an alien girl, but not like any soldier he had seen in battle. She was dressed in royal silver garments torn by fire and blood. Her skin was pale with a soft shimmer. Her long hair tangled and her lips barely moved. Her veins glowed faintly under her skin, flickering like fading light. Daniel knelt beside her. She was alive, but only just. Her pulse was weak, her eyes half open. When she looked at him, her gaze was sharp yet desperate. "You, human," she whispered, her voice shaking. "Help me." Daniel's breath caught. He recognized her face. He had seen it once on a holoscreen. She was no ordinary alien. She was their princess, heir to one of the strongest alien empires in the galaxy. But now she lay in the dirt, broken and dying. Her hand reached out weakly, trembling. Daniel hesitated. This was dangerous. If his people discovered he had helped an alien royal, especially from an enemy race, they might call him a traitor. Yet his heart told him something else. She wasn't an enemy right now. She was just a girl on the edge of death. I can't, Daniel muttered, shaking his head. "You're not human. My blood won't work." But her glowing eyes locked onto his. "Please," she whispered again. "Your blood, it can save me." Daniel felt a chill run through him. How could she know that? How could human blood save her? He looked at her wounds. The strange burn marks spread like black veins across her body. Some toxin was eating her from the inside. He had medical training, but none of his supplies could fight alien sickness. She coughed and glowing blood dripped from her lips. Her body trembled. Daniel felt his chest tighten. If he did nothing, she would die right here in front of him. He reached into his pack, pulling out a small emergency transfusion kit. He stared at it, his hands shaking. This was insane. Sharing human blood with an alien could kill them both. But something inside him refused to leave her. As he prepared the needle, the ground shook. A distant roar echoed through the ruins. Daniel's eyes darted around. Enemy patrols were searching the city. Time was running out. "Why me?" he whispered to her. Her lips curved into the faintest smile. "Because you are the one. The prophecy said a human's blood would save me." Daniel's heart pounded. Prophecy? Fate? He didn't believe in such things. But right now he had no choice. He pushed the needle into his arm, drawing blood. Then carefully he connected the tube to her. His crimson blood flowed into her glowing veins. For a moment nothing happened. Then her body jerked violently. Her veins lit up like fire, glowing brighter and brighter. She cried out, her voice echoing across the ruins. Daniel held her down, fear rushing through him. "Stay with me," he shouted. "Don't give up now." Her body arched, her eyes snapping wide open. For one terrifying second, Daniel thought he had killed her. But then the glow in her veins steadied. Her breathing grew stronger. Her pulse began to rise under his fingers. Daniel let out a shaky breath. "It's working," he whispered in disbelief. Slowly, her gaze met his. Her eyes were no longer fading. They shone with an almost blinding light. She stared at him as if she had known him forever. And then, in a voice that made his blood run cold, she whispered his name. "Daniel." He froze, his heart skipped a beat. He had never told her his name. The ruins fell silent again, but now Daniel felt a storm building. Something had begun, something he did not understand. His blood had saved her, but at what cost? The faint glow spread from her body into his arm, crawling into his veins. He gasped, staring at his hand. His skin flickered with the same alien light, and in that moment Daniel knew his life would never be the same again. Daniel's hand shook as he pulled the needle out of his arm. His blood still dripped into the alien princess's veins, glowing brighter as it mixed with her own. He stared at his hand, watching faint light trace through his skin like small rivers of fire. His breathing was heavy, his mind screaming at him to stop, but his heart refused to let go. The princess's body trembled, but her breaths grew deeper. Slowly, her pale face gained a touch of color, and her chest rose steadily with life. Daniel almost couldn't believe it. His blood was keeping her alive, but how? Human and alien blood were never meant to mix. Her eyes flicked open, glowing softly in the darkness. She stared at him with an intensity that made his chest tighten. "You gave me life," she whispered. Her voice was weak but steady. "Now we are bound," Daniel frowned. "Bound? What do you mean?" But she closed her eyes again, her strength fading. She needed rest. Daniel sat back, running a hand through his hair, trying to understand. Bound, what kind of bond could this be? Before he could think further, a noise in the distance made him freeze. A low growl, followed by the crunch of armored boots. Daniel cursed under his breath. Enemy scouts were closing in on the ruins. If they found the princess alive, they would kill her, and probably him too. He looked at her fragile form. She was barely able to move. He had to choose. Leave her behind and escape with his life, or risk everything by carrying her. For a long moment he hesitated. He thought about his orders, about the rules of war. But then he remembered the way she whispered his name without ever knowing him, the way her eyes begged him not to let go. Daniel clenched his jaw. He couldn't abandon her. He slid his arms under her fragile body. She was lighter than he expected, her glowing veins casting a faint light across his chest. As he lifted her, her head rested against his shoulder, and she whispered something in her own alien language, soft like a prayer. Daniel moved quickly through the ruins, careful to avoid the patrol lights sweeping across the broken streets. Every shadow felt alive, every step louder than thunder in his ears. His heart raced not from fear alone, but from the strange warmth spreading in his veins. Halfway through a collapsed street, his legs buckled. His vision blurred and his head pounded. The glow in his arm had spread further, crawling toward his chest. He felt weak, like part of his life was leaking out of him. The princess stirred in his arms. Her glowing hand touched his cheek, and for a moment strength rushed back into him, like she had given something in return. Daniel froze. Their bond, it wasn't one way. She was linked to him now, sharing her energy just as he had given his blood. "You will not survive without me," she whispered, barely conscious. Daniel tightened his grip. "Then we survive together," he muttered, pressing forward. The ruins suddenly erupted with sound. Alien hunters appeared at the far end of the street, their armor shining in the flickering firelight. One of them shouted, pointing toward Daniel. Their weapons lit up with deadly energy. Daniel's heart pounded. He ducked behind a broken wall, holding the princess close. He had no chance against them. His rifle was gone and his strength was fading, but the princess stirred again, her eyes glowing fiercely. "Run to the tower," she whispered, pointing weakly toward a crumbling spire in the distance. "It will hide us." Daniel looked at the half-destroyed tower. It seemed impossible to reach, but he had no other choice. With every ounce of strength he sprinted, the princess in his arms. Energy blasts exploded behind him, shattering stone and sending sparks into the night. His lungs burned, his legs screamed, but he refused to stop. Just as he reached the base of the tower, a blast struck the ground beside him, throwing him forward. He crashed hard, shielding the princess with his body. His ears rang, dust filled his mouth, and pain spread through his chest. He tried to stand, but his knees shook. The hunters were closing in. Their footsteps grew louder, weapons charging. Then something inside Daniel snapped. His veins flared with light, brighter than before. His vision sharpened, his body stronger for a brief moment. He grabbed a broken piece of steel pipe from the ground, his hands trembling with power he didn't understand. As the first hunter leaped toward him, Daniel swung. The steel pipe struck with inhuman force, sending the armored soldier crashing into a wall. The others froze, stunned by the sudden display. Daniel himself was shocked. That shouldn't have been possible. He felt his heart race, his blood boiling with fire. But even as he stood stronger, he felt the cost, his strength burning away like a candle flame in the wind. The princess looked at him with wide eyes. "Your blood is becoming ours." Daniel's grip tightened on the pipe. He didn't understand what was happening, but he knew one thing. He couldn't stop now. The hunters roared, charging forward. Daniel braced himself, his body trembling with both fear and strange power. The fight was coming, and there was no turning back. The ruins were quiet again, except for Daniel's ragged breaths. Dust floated in the air, glowing faintly in the moonlight. The hunters he had fought now lay scattered among the rubble, their armor cracked, their bodies motionless. Daniel stood over them, his chest heaving, the steel pipe still trembling in his grip. He couldn't believe what had just happened. He had fought like someone else, faster, stronger, almost unstoppable. But now, as the strange glow in his veins began to dim, weakness rushed through him. His knees buckled and he collapsed to the ground. The princess, still in his arms, stirred. Her glowing eyes opened wider this time, no longer filled with fading light but with sharp, radiant strength. She looked at him carefully, her gaze piercing as if she could see into his very soul. "You should not be alive," she whispered, her voice steadier than before. Daniel let out a bitter laugh, coughing. "Tell me about it. I don't even know what I am anymore." He lifted his trembling arm, showing her the glowing lines spreading under his skin. This isn't normal." Her gaze softened, and she raised her hand to touch his arm. The moment her skin brushed against his, warmth spread through him, chasing away the exhaustion for a brief instant. "Our blood is joined," she said quietly. "Your gift saved me, but it changed you as well." Daniel shook his head, confusion clouding his mind. "Changed me? What does that mean?" The princess's lips pressed into a thin line. She looked away for a moment as though afraid of her own words. Then she whispered, "My people carry an ancient prophecy. It spoke of a stranger from the stars whose blood would awaken the line of the true queen. Without him, the empire would fall into darkness. With him, it might rise again." Daniel blinked, his heart pounding. "Are you saying me? That's ridiculous. I'm just a soldier. I don't belong in any prophecy." But the princess met his eyes again, her glowing stare unwavering. "And yet here you are. Human blood should have killed me. Instead, it bound us together. The prophecy has begun." Daniel's mind spun. Prophecy? Empire? Queen? He had no place in any of that. He was just trying to survive. He wanted to deny it, to laugh it off, but deep down he couldn't ignore what had happened. He had fought like something more than human. He had felt the bond in his blood. The princess sat up slowly, her strength returning faster than Daniel expected. She looked around at the fallen hunters, her jaw tightening. "They will not stop. My enemies know I am still alive. They will send more." Daniel dragged himself to his feet. His body ached. But the faint glow inside him pulsed like a second heartbeat, urging him forward. "Then we need to move. There must be somewhere safe." The princess's eyes narrowed as though weighing whether to trust him. But after a long pause, she gave a small nod. "There is a place. An ancient temple hidden beyond these ruins. If we reach it, I can awaken the core. It may heal us both." Daniel frowned. "And if we don't?" She looked at him, her glowing veins dimming slightly. "Then the bond will consume us slowly, painfully, until nothing remains." Daniel's stomach tightened. He hadn't signed up for this. Saving her had been an act of mercy, not a death sentence. But now his life was tied to hers. He couldn't walk away even if he wanted to. He rubbed his face, trying to focus. "Fine, we'll go to your temple. But after that, I want answers. All of them." The princess inclined her head. "You will have them, Daniel." Her voice lingered on his name, and it made him shiver. He still didn't understand how she had known it before he had ever spoken it aloud. They moved cautiously through the ruins, Daniel helping her walk when her strength faltered. The city was eerily silent, the fires dying down to smoldering embers, but every shadow seemed to hide danger, every sound a threat waiting to strike. As they crossed a broken bridge, Daniel felt his arm ache. He pulled up his sleeve. The glowing lines in his veins were spreading faster now, crawling toward his chest. His pulse quickened. The princess stopped and touched his hand. Her glow flickered, syncing with his. For a brief moment, Daniel felt weightless, as though their hearts beat in the same rhythm. She looked at him seriously. "This bond is not only blood. It is life itself. If one of us falls, so does the other. Do you understand?" Daniel stared at her, his chest tight. "So I can't leave you, even if I wanted to." Her expression softened, a rare smile brushing her lips. "And I cannot leave you." Before Daniel could reply, a sudden howl echoed through the ruins. He whipped his head around, tightening his grip on the steel pipe. From the shadows, more figures emerged, taller, stronger hunters with glowing blades. Their eyes locked onto the princess, and their snarls filled the night. The princess's glow flared in response, her voice calm but urgent. "They have found us again. This time they will not stop until we are both dead." Daniel tightened his grip, his blood pulsing like fire in his veins. He felt fear, but also something else. A rising storm inside him, urging him to fight again. As the hunters closed in, he whispered to himself, "Whatever this bond is, I'll use it." "Just don't let me burn out." The princess glanced at him, her eyes blazing. "You are stronger than you know, Daniel." The hunters roared, charging forward. And with his blood glowing like fire, Daniel stepped into the fight once more. The night air grew heavy as the hunters advanced, their armored steps shaking the broken stones beneath them. Their blades glowed with sharp light, humming with deadly energy. Daniel tightened his grip on the steel pipe, his knuckles white, his heart pounding like a drum in his chest. Beside him, the alien princess stood taller now, though she leaned slightly against the crumbling wall for support. Her veins shimmered with soft light, her glowing eyes fixed on the enemies surrounding them. "They will not stop," she whispered. "They are blood-bound hunters. Once they mark prey, they chase until one side dies." Daniel's throat went dry. "Great, just what I needed." He raised the pipe, trying to steady his shaking hands. But deep inside, he felt the strange power stir again, warmth in his veins like a second heartbeat ready to burst out. The hunters snarled, spreading out to corner them. Then, as one, they charged. Daniel's instincts screamed to run, but his body moved differently this time. His blood surged, and suddenly the world slowed. The nearest hunter leaped at him, blade slicing through the air, but Daniel ducked under it with inhuman speed. He swung his pipe upward, striking the hunter's chest. The blow sent the armored figure flying back into a wall with a thunderous crash. Dust rained down from above. Daniel froze, panting. "I shouldn't be able to do that." But there was no time to think. Another hunter lunged from behind, blade raised. Before Daniel could react, the princess raised her hand. A burst of radiant light exploded from her palm, striking the hunter and throwing him to the ground. She swayed, nearly collapsing, but Daniel caught her arm. "You're too weak, don't push yourself." Her gaze locked on his, glowing fierce. "And if I do nothing, we both die." Daniel clenched his jaw. She was right. They couldn't win by hiding. The hunters regrouped, snarling, circling them again. Daniel pulled the princess closer, whispering, "We need to get to that temple now. We can't fight all of them." Her lips pressed into a thin line, but she nodded. "There is a hidden path beneath the tower. I will guide you," the hunters roared, charging once more. Daniel swung the pipe with burning strength, forcing them back, then grabbed the princess's hand. Together they sprinted through the ruins, broken stone crunching under their boots. Energy blasts rained down around them, striking walls and sending showers of sparks across the night. Daniel's lungs burned, but the strange fire in his veins kept him moving faster than he ever thought possible. The princess guided him through twisting alleys and collapsed streets, her glow lighting their way like a beacon. Behind them, the hunters chased relentlessly, their roars echoing through the ruins. Daniel gritted his teeth. "They're not slowing down." "They won't," she replied. Her voice was calm, though her chest rose and fell quickly. "But if we reach the hidden gate, we can escape them." They turned a corner and came to a massive stone plaza, broken statues scattered across it. In the center stood an ancient gate carved into the ground, its surface covered with glowing alien symbols. Daniel's eyes widened. "That's it?" "Yes," the princess whispered. She knelt beside the gate, pressing her glowing hand against the symbols. The stone pulsed faintly, but the gate did not open. She gasped. "It needs more energy." The hunters burst into the plaza, their blades glowing brighter. They spread out, surrounding Daniel and the princess once again. Daniel's pulse raced. "Then use mine." The princess looked up sharply. "No, you've already given too much." "If I take more, your body might break." Daniel glared at the hunters closing in. "If you don't, we're both dead anyway. So take it now." For a moment, hesitation flickered in her glowing eyes. Then slowly she placed her hand on his chest. Warmth rushed into him, then out again, pulled by her touch. His veins flared with light, brighter than before, pain shooting through his body like fire. He clenched his teeth, refusing to cry out. His strength drained, but the gate began to glow. Brighter and brighter, ancient symbols lighting up one by one. The hunters snarled, sensing what was happening, and charged at full speed. Daniel's vision blurred, but he forced himself to move. He swung the steel pipe with all the fire left in his veins, striking one hunter across the head. Another lunged at the princess, but Daniel threw himself in the way, the blade cutting across his shoulder. He screamed, blood pouring, but the glow in his veins held him upright. The princess gasped, her hands glowing fiercely. The gate shuddered, and with a deep rumble it began to open. A beam of radiant light shot upward, blinding the hunters. They stumbled back, shielding their eyes. "Daniel!" the princess cried, grabbing his arm. "Inside! Now!" He staggered forward, blood dripping down his arm, his body trembling. Together they leaped through the opening gate, the light swallowing them whole. Behind them the hunters roared, their voices shaking the plaza. But the gate slammed shut with a thunderous boom, cutting them off completely. Silence returned. Daniel collapsed to his knees, gasping for air. His vision swam, pain burning through his shoulder. But when he looked at the princess, she was staring at him with wide, unreadable eyes. "You gave me more than blood this time," she whispered. "You gave me your life." Daniel tried to laugh, but his voice was broken. "Well, don't waste it." Her hand touched his face, soft and trembling. "You do not understand what you have done, Daniel. You are no longer only human." He stared at her, his heart pounding. The glow in his veins pulsed like a living thing, spreading deeper into his chest. And in that moment, Daniel realized he wasn't just fighting to save her life anymore. He was fighting to hold on to his own humanity. The light of the ancient gate faded, leaving behind deep silence. Daniel lay on the cold stone floor, his breath ragged, his shoulder bleeding where the hunter's blade had cut him. For a moment, he thought he had blacked out completely. Then he opened his eyes. They were no longer in the ruined city. Around him stretched a vast underground hall carved of smooth crystal stone. The walls glowed faintly with alien runes, each symbol pulsing like a heartbeat. The air was warmer here, filled with a faint hum, as if the temple itself was alive. Daniel groaned, pressing his hand against his wound. Blood seeped between his fingers. He tried to sit up but swayed dangerously. The princess was already kneeling beside him. Her glowing eyes studied him with a strange mix of fear and wonder. She pressed her palm over his wound and warmth spread into him. The bleeding slowed, the pain easing, though exhaustion still weighed heavily on his body. "You are stubborn," she whispered softly. "You give until nothing is left, yet still you stand." Daniel managed a weak smile. "Guess it's a human thing." Her lips curved slightly, almost a smile, though sadness lingered in her eyes. "No, it is not only human, it is you." He looked at her carefully. She seemed stronger now, her skin no longer pale, her voice no longer trembling. His blood had healed her almost completely. But as he glanced at his own arm, he saw the glowing lines had spread further, now running across his shoulder and chest. He swallowed hard. "What's happening to me?" he asked quietly. The princess looked away, her hands tightening in her lap. "The bond grows. It links your life to mine. The more you give, the more you change. Already, your blood is not only human, it is ours." Daniel's throat went dry. He wanted to deny it, but deep inside he could feel it too. The fire in his veins no longer felt foreign. It felt alive, as though something new was being born inside him. The princess rose, her glow reflecting against the crystal walls. "Come. This temple was built by my ancestors. It holds the answers we both need." Daniel forced himself to stand, leaning on the wall for balance. Together, they walked deeper into the hall. Strange murals lined the walls, depictions of alien queens holding hands with figures that looked almost human. Battles, victories, and flames carved into stone told stories Daniel could not fully understand. But one mural stopped him cold. It showed a woman who looked just like the princess, standing beside a human warrior. Both glowed with light, their veins shining as one. Around them, armies bowed. Daniel stared at it, his chest tightening. "That's us?" The princess's voice was quiet, but steady. "The prophecy. It was carved long before either of us was born. They said one day a human would come. His blood would bind with the royal line, and together they would bring balance or destruction. Daniel shook his head. I didn't ask for this. I just wanted to save you. That's all. Her gaze softened, and for the first time, her voice trembled. And no one ever saved me before, do you understand? In my life, I was surrounded by guards, advisors, warriors, but none of them gave anything for me. They protected my crown, not me. But you, a stranger, gave your very blood without question. Daniel's heart thudded. He didn't know what to say. Before he could respond, the ground trembled beneath them. The runes on the walls flared brightly, and a deep hum echoed through the temple. The princess stiffened. The temple has awakened, she whispered. It feels the bond. In the center of the hall, a crystal altar rose from the floor, glowing brighter and brighter. Strange streams of energy spiraled upward, filling the chamber with dazzling light. The princess stepped forward, her voice almost reverent. This is the core. It will reveal the truth of our bond, and test it. Daniel frowned. Test it how? But before she could answer, the crystal pulsed, sending a shockwave through the room. Daniel cried out as the glow in his veins flared violently, searing his body with fire. He fell to his knees, clutching his chest. The princess gasped, running to him. She pressed her hands against his shoulders, her own veins glowing brighter. The core's light wrapped around them both, pulling them closer, binding them with strands of energy. Visions filled Daniel's mind, memories not his own. He saw alien battles, royal ceremonies, endless loneliness in a palace of stone. He felt her sorrow, her fear, her longing, and beneath it all, her desperate wish for someone who saw her not as a ruler, but as a person. At the same time, she gasped, her eyes wide as if seeing his life, his childhood on Earth, his training as a soldier, the wars he fought, the friends he lost. She saw his doubts, his guilt, and the stubborn spark that refused to die even in the darkest battles. When the vision faded, both of them collapsed, their foreheads nearly touching, their breaths mingling. For a long moment, neither spoke. Then the princess whispered, I know you now, Daniel. You are not only my savior. You are part of me. Daniel swallowed, his chest heavy. And you're part of me, whether I like it or not. Their eyes met, glowing veins reflecting in each other. The silence was thick, filled with something unspoken. But before either could say more, a loud crack split the hall. The temple doors shuddered violently as if struck from the outside. Distant roars echoed, the hunters pounding against the sealed gate. Daniel staggered to his feet, pulling the princess behind him. Looks like we don't have much time. The princess's gaze hardened. Then we must awaken the core completely. Only then will we have the strength to survive. Daniel gripped the steel pipe tighter, his blood still glowing. He didn't understand everything yet. But he knew one thing. He would fight until his last breath to keep her alive. The temple trembled as the hunters pounded against the sealed doors, their roars echoing through the underground hall. Dust rained from the high crystal ceiling, and the glowing runes across the walls flickered in warning. Daniel's grip tightened on the steel pipe, his glowing veins pulsing like fire ready to break free. Beside him, the alien princess stood before the core, her hands pressed against its radiant surface. The crystal pulsed brighter with every heartbeat, humming louder, resonating with their bond. They're breaking through, Daniel muttered, his voice rough. He turned his head toward her. Tell me this core of yours has more to offer than pretty lights. Her glowing eyes didn't waver. It does, but it must be fully awakened. That requires both of us. Daniel let out a humorless laugh. Figures. Nothing comes easy. The doors cracked, shards of stone flying as claws and blades forced their way in. Through the opening, Daniel glimpsed the shadow of something larger, taller than the hunters he had faced, its eyes glowing with an unnatural light. His stomach tightened. Whoever was leading them was far deadlier than the rest. The princess's voice rang out, calm but urgent. Daniel, stand with me. Place your hand on the core. Together, We will awaken it. He hesitated, glancing back at the breaking door. But there was no choice. He pressed his hand against the glowing crystal. The moment he touched it, a surge of energy ripped through him. His veins blazed with white-hot fire, his vision exploding with light. He felt her presence inside his mind. Again, stronger this time, her fear, her determination, her strength. Their hearts beat as one, their breaths matched, their blood flowing like a single stream. The core roared to life. A column of light shot upward, shaking the entire chamber. Alien runes lit up across the floor, forming a circle around them. The hunters finally smashed the doors open. They poured inside, snarling, their weapons raised. At their head stepped the warlord, a towering figure clad in black armor, his massive blade glowing like molten steel. His gaze locked on the princess. "You should have died with your empire," he growled, his voice deep and cruel. "No human blood will save you now." Daniel stepped in front of her, his body trembling with energy, his veins glowing like living fire. Funny, it already did. The warlord roared and charged. The hunters followed, filling the hall with thunderous footsteps. Daniel's blood surged, the core amplifying his strength. He swung the steel pipe with impossible force, striking one hunter and sending him crashing across the chamber. Another slashed at him, but Daniel caught the glowing blade in his bare hand. Sparks flew as the metal screeched against his palm, but instead of cutting, the blade cracked under his grip. The princess lifted her arms, light streaming from her veins. She unleashed a wave of radiant energy, knocking back 3 hunters at once, but each blast drained her strength, her knees trembling as she forced herself to keep fighting. Daniel pushed forward, his movements no longer human. He ducked, dodged, and struck with terrifying speed, his pipe glowing brighter with each swing, but every attack burned him from the inside. His vision blurred, his chest ached, and blood trickled from his nose. The warlord slammed into him, their clash shaking the temple floor. Daniel stumbled, the weight of the enemy's blade pressing him down. The warlord sneered. "Your body is breaking, human. You cannot hold her power." Daniel's arms trembled, his knees nearly buckling, but then he felt the princess's hand on his back, warmth flooding into him. Her energy flowed through the bond, filling him with new strength. He grit his teeth, forcing the warlord back with a roar. "Maybe I can't hold it alone." "But we're not alone." With one final push, he swung the pipe upward, shattering the warlord's blade. The warlord staggered back, stunned. The core pulsed violently, its light flooding the hall. The circle on the floor flared, lifting Daniel and the princess slightly off the ground. Energy swirled around them, threads of light binding them together. The princess's voice was soft but fierce. "Our bond is complete." Daniel felt the fire in his veins shift. It no longer burned him. It flowed smoothly, like strength born for him. His fear turned into clarity, his weakness into power. He looked at the hunters closing in, his eyes glowing with alien light. The warlord roared again, rushing forward. Daniel moved to meet him faster than before. Their clash sent shockwaves through the temple. Daniel's glowing fist struck the warlord's chest, shattering his armor, sending him crashing into the wall with a scream. The remaining hunters froze, their snarls fading into silence. For the first time, fear flickered in their glowing eyes. The princess raised her hand, her voice echoing with authority. "Leave now or fall where you stand." The hunters hesitated, then slowly backed away, dragging their fallen leader with them. One by one they retreated, their growls fading into the darkness. Silence filled the hall again. Daniel collapsed to his knees, panting, sweat dripping down his face. His veins still glowed faintly, but the fire inside him no longer tore at his body. It was stable, controlled. The princess knelt beside him, her hand resting gently on his arm. "You survived the awakening." "Few could." Daniel laughed weakly. "Lucky me." Her eyes softened. "Not luck, choice. You chose to give again and again when most would have taken. That is why the core accepted you." Daniel met her gaze, his chest heavy. He still didn't fully understand what he had become. Human, alien, something in between. But one thing was clear. Their bond had changed everything. Before he could speak, the core pulsed once more, sending a soft hum through the chamber. It felt almost like a warning. The princess looked up, her expression serious. "This is only the beginning," she whispered. "The bond has made us stronger, but it has also made us a target. Every empire, every enemy will come for us now." Daniel clenched his fists, his glowing veins pulsing in agreement. Then let them come. I'm not running anymore. The princess's lips curved into a faint, proud smile. Nor am I. Together they stood in the core's light, ready for whatever storm awaited beyond the temple walls. The temple was quiet again. The echoes of the battle had faded into silence, leaving only the low hum of the core that glowed softly in the center of the chamber. Daniel leaned against the crystal wall, his chest rising and falling heavily, every muscle aching from the fight. But this time, he was still standing. His veins pulsed with a steady glow, no longer burning him from the inside but flowing like a second lifeline. When he glanced at his arm, he saw strange alien symbols carved into his skin, faint but alive, glowing with the same rhythm as the core. The sight made his stomach twist. He wasn't just human anymore. The princess approached, her steps graceful despite the exhaustion weighing on her. Her silver hair shimmered faintly in the core's light, her glowing eyes fixed on him. When she reached him, she gently touched his arm where the symbols burned. "They have accepted you," she said softly. "The core has written its mark into your blood. You are no longer only Daniel of Earth, you are something more." Daniel let out a shaky laugh. "Something more, huh? That sounds like trouble." Her lips curved faintly into a smile, but her gaze was serious. "It is more than trouble. It is destiny. You and I are bound now. Your life, your strength, your future, it is tied to mine. If I rise, you rise. If I fall?" Daniel finished her words quietly. "Then I fall too." The silence that followed was heavy. He stared at the glowing lines on his skin, then at her. "So what now? What happens to us?" She turned toward the core, her voice carrying the weight of centuries. "The bond is not just between us. It has awakened something greater, a signal. The core has announced to the galaxy that the bloodline still lives, and that it is joined with a human." Daniel's jaw tightened. "You mean everyone out there knows?" She nodded slowly. "They will come for us. Enemies who want me dead, rivals who want my throne, and those who fear what you have become." Daniel exhaled, running a hand through his hair. "So basically, we just painted a giant target on our backs." Her voice softened. "Yes, but also a light. To those who still believe in me, this bond is hope. You are hope." Daniel met her eyes, searching them. For the first time, he saw not just royalty, not just prophecy, but someone who was as scared as he was, yet still standing, still fighting. "You know," he said quietly, "I didn't come here looking to be a hero. I just wanted to save someone who was dying." Her hand brushed against his, her touch warm. "And in saving me, you may have saved countless others." Daniel looked down at their joined hands, the glow in their veins sinking, pulsing in rhythm. It felt strange, terrifying, but also right. A distant rumble echoed through the temple. The walls vibrated, the runes flickering. Daniel straightened, his grip tightening on the steel pipe he still carried. "What now?" he asked sharply. The princess's gaze hardened. "The core's energy will draw more than just hunters. Armies will come, perhaps even entire fleets. This place is no longer safe." Daniel smirked, though his heart pounded. "Safe places don't exist anymore, do they?" "No," she whispered. "Not for us." For a moment, silence stretched between them. Then Daniel spoke, his voice firm. "So we fight, together. If this bond means I can't walk away, then I'll see it through. No matter what's coming." The princess studied him, her eyes glowing with something more than power, something almost human. "You speak like a king, Daniel." He shook his head with a faint smile. "Not a king, just a soldier too stubborn to quit." The core pulsed again, brighter this time, almost as if it approved. Its light cast their shadows across the walls, the murals of prophecy reflecting them side by side, the alien princess and the human warrior, standing where legend had promised they would. The temple doors groaned again, though this time no hunters followed. Instead, the sound was distant thunder, a reminder of the galaxy waiting outside. Daniel straightened, squaring his shoulders despite the exhaustion in his bones. He looked at her and said, "So where do we go?" The princess's lips curved into a determined smile. "To the stars. To reclaim what was stolen, to face what hunts us, to fulfill what was written." Daniel nodded slowly, gripping his weapon, though he knew it was no longer enough. His blood itself was the real weapon now, whether he liked it or not. The core's hum faded into silence, and the temple began to dim. Their time here was over. As they stepped toward the exit, Daniel glanced one last time at the glowing murals. The carved figures stared back at him, ancient reminders of a future he was now a part of. And as the doors opened, revealing the night sky filled with distant stars, Daniel couldn't shake the feeling that something was watching them. Something far greater than hunters, something that had been waiting for this moment. The princess whispered beside him, her voice calm but chilling. "They will come for us soon." Daniel clenched his fists, the glow in his veins pulsing stronger than ever. He lifted his eyes to the stars, his voice steady. "Then let them come." The night swallowed their silhouettes as they stepped out of the temple, not as enemies, not as strangers, but as something new, bound by blood, marked by destiny, and carrying the weight of a galaxy that had just realized they existed. And somewhere, far away in the vast darkness of space, an ancient fleet stirred awake.